When the tone started to change, they said, Lisa, we're going to have to make a decision here. I think maybe we should suspend your campaign. Are you willing to do that?
What does that mean, suspend? That means end it, I assume, given that the election's less than a week away.
That's exactly how I took it as well. And I said, what does this mean to suspend? And they said, well, you can't do your literature, you can't knock on doors, you can't basically do anything. And I said to them, well, what happens to, being innocent until you're proven guilty? Why is this happening? And they didn't have an answer for me. And then, after that, they said, well, we have to protect our leader. And that's what it comes down to. They said we have to protect the leader, and I am in a riding that for the last 2 decades has been predominantly red, so they're willing to pretty much throw me under the bus in order to protect what's going on. And I've actually had a lot of support from people saying that to me as well, saying, Lisa, these are not Islamophobic posts. This has to do with ISIS.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. Well, I'm in the riding of Beaches, East York, and I'm with Lisa Robinson, who is, or rather was, the Conservative candidate for this riding until something very, very ugly indeed happened on Friday. You see, Lisa is no longer the candidate for this riding because allegations of social media postings arose, but here's the twist, folks. These postings are evidently falsified. And with more on this story is Lisa herself. So Lisa, on Friday, just before the weekend, the news broke that you had made very offensive social media contributions. This is something that goes back years ago. You told me you tried to address it with the police years ago. What exactly happened?
Yes, thank you very much, David, for having me here today, first of all. Friday morning, I had got a phone call from the Conservative Party, and they told me that my opponent from the Liberal Party had posted something very disturbing, and they sent me a copy of it. Immediately, they had asked me about it, and I said this was done back in 2017, and at that time, I was in the middle of running a municipal election. And during that municipal election, my opponent at that time had some people go and start digging through my Twitter account. So they went, and I guess what they had done was they had taken some of my real posts and then they falsified some posts, and they kind of put it all together like a collage, and then they took Snapchats of it or whatever, and then they posted it to social media. So this is what has come up on his page first thing in the morning.
And Lisa, I think it's important to note that when you became the Conservative candidate for Beaches East York, you were vetted. And I know part of that vetting, it means going through social media posts, everything that certainly the party doesn't want a candidate with any baggage that's going to dog them. So you passed their vetting. They stated to you on Friday, we've got your back, we're going to bat for you. And by Saturday, less than 24 hours later, the story changed, didn't it?
Oh, it was by Friday evening the story changed, actually.
Now, folks, I did reach out to Tanis Drysdale. She is with the Conservative Party of Canada and had direct dealings with Lisa Robinson regarding the forced resignation. Here's what Miss Drysdale had to say.
David Menzies speaking.
Hello, I'm calling.
Oh, hi, Tanis. Thank you so much for getting back to me. Listen, I'm doing a story on Lisa Robinson. We interviewed her the other day for Rebel News, and I just wanted to reach out to get some official response from the Conservative Party. I understand you're the Director of Field Operations, and Lisa had mentioned your name. Basically, Lisa denies that she ever wrote the inflammatory tweets. It's something that goes back years ago. She had called the police about them. And what I'm just trying to understand is, how did something change so rapidly? Lisa says the Conservative Party said that they had her back on this on a Friday morning, and then by Friday evening it was, you have to resign. So I'm just trying to understand what changed. Was it media pressure? Was it something else? Can you weigh in on that? makes sense just because I think you were dealing directly with Lisa Robinson, and there was a bizarre thing too that Lisa showed me a link that the party had passed on. It was I can't remember the exact name, but it was basically a mental health crisis phone line to phone.
I appreciate your call, and I'm getting another call in now. Do you have Chelsea's phone number? And I can text it to you if you do not have it.
Oh, if you could, I'd really appreciate that.
I'll see your communications with them, and I'd be happy to send that to you.
Okay, thank you, and I'll reach out to, is it Chelsea, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay then, all right.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So with that, throughout the day, when they kept on saying they had my back, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so, the tone started to change.
And what got to them? Was it the media requesting interviews? I mean, unfortunately, we have seen Mr. O'Toole flip-flop, vaccine passports, the gun ban, what have you. It seems that, to me at least, a slight amount of pressure can make him do a 180. Was that what was behind the lack of support?
I would think that's exactly what was behind the lack of support. It was either that or it was because I was a female. I can't be sure yet because there was actually the same Liberal candidate that is out in the Durham region also tried to call out the Conservative candidate in Durham because for racist comments that were done back in university as well. But the Conservative candidate there, he admitted to it, and he didn't get asked to have a suspension or anything else or step down. So with me, going back to me now, throughout the afternoon, when the tone started to change, they said, Lisa, we're going to have to make a decision here. I think maybe we should suspend your campaign. Are you willing to do that?
What does that mean, suspend? That means end it, I assume, given that the election's less than a week away.
That's exactly how I took it as well. And I said, what does this mean to suspend? And they said, well, you can't do your literature, you can't knock on doors, you can't basically do anything. And I said to them, well, what happens to, being innocent until you're proven guilty? Why is this happening? And they didn't have an answer for me. And then after that, they said, well, we have to protect our leader. And that's what it comes down to. They said we have to protect the leader, and I am in a riding that for the last 2 decades has been predominantly red, so they're willing to pretty much throw me under the bus in order to protect what's going on. I'm out here just to do good for the people. I've stand up for the people all the time, as you can see, calling out the regional councillors for going away. That is what I do. And that is my strength is, always being on the side of right. I don't do smear campaigns. And when this first came out, I said, I had a lot of people asking me, do you want me to start doing some digging and see what we can find on them? And I said, no. I said, I am not going to stoop down to their level. But this is what the Liberals do. I mean, they're doing it all across, as you know, and this is the way that they win. Unfortunately, people don't see it, and when people do speak up about it, all of a sudden, you're a conspiracy theorist, or, they start calling you out, because nobody is allowed to have their own opinion anymore. Nobody has a discussion. They just automatically start censoring you and push you out the door.
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you for your time. I'm so sorry this has happened to you. And Aaron O'Toole, I'm reaching out to you. 13 months ago, you had all the time in the world for me. You attended the Independent Press Gallery leadership debate when you were vying to be the leader. Mr. O'Toole, do you think part of the problem when we look back with the hindsight of 2020 is that we have an increasingly left of center media in Canada right now that is increasingly being funded by the federal government, $1.5 billion for the CBC each year.
But I've also said I'm going to defund CBC television, English and digital. It's time to shake up the landscape. It's also why I support the Independent Press Gallery as well.
Now it's a different tune, I understand that, but I hope you have the courage to answer these questions. I hope you believe Canada is a country in which you are innocent until proven guilty, as opposed to vice versa. I think this is a terrible story, what's happened to Lisa Robinson. I'm going to reach out to you, your war room. Hopefully you'll have the decency and the courage to give us an answer, because there's a lot of unanswered questions, I think, when it comes to this particular sordid story. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, can you believe it? Less than a week to go before the federal election. Tell me, do you trust what the mainstream media is reporting? I sure don't. Therefore, if you can, please go to realreporters.ca. That's realreporters.ca. If you're able to, kindly make a donation so that Rebel News can continue to bring you the other side of the story.